Hello everyone and welcome to Science Lab. The signs are happening because Jesus is coming. Every day we're looking at some of the signs that are happening around us, and today we're going to look at some of the end time signs happening in Europe.
A study by the Pew Research Center published in April 2019 found that a majority of people around the world are unhappy with the state of democracy in their country. This unhappiness is growing especially fast in Germany.
In 2018, 43% of Germans said that they were unsatisfied with the state of democracy in their country, up from 26% in 2017. Only India experienced a more dramatic rise in frustration. Within the European Union, Germans are the most unsatisfied, followed by the Netherlands with an increase of 12 percentage points.
This does not mean Germans are rejecting the principle of democracy, but they are increasingly frustrated. The weaknesses of democracy lies in the long debates and governmental standstills. However, democracy promises citizens civil freedoms and the right to vote. But what good is a democracy if it does not hold the values it stands for? That's the exact question that many Germans are asking themselves.
In 2018, 75% of Germans believed that their government didn't protect free speech enough, an increase of 41 percentage points. 59% said that they believe elected officials don't care enough about what ordinary people think, an increase of 36 percentage points. According to a study by the union-based Otto Brenner Foundation, more than 60% of respondents ages 18 to 30 believe that they have no control over what the government does. Germans say the democratic values they believe in are no longer upheld. Add this frustration to the weaknesses that democracies bring, and you get a toxic mixture. Germans' frustration with their current government makes them more likely to embrace other forms of government. A 2018 study by the German University of Leipzig found that 7.9% of Germans fully or mostly agree with the following statement: "It is in the national interest that a dictatorship is, under certain circumstances, the better form of government." The study also found that 40% of Germans could see themselves supporting an authoritarian regime. The study asked if the people agreed with the following statements. Troublemakers should clearly feel that they are undesired in society. 86% agreed or partially agreed. Proven practices should not be questioned. 71% answered positively. People should leave important decisions in society to leaders. 57% answered positively. According to those who conducted the study, the answers show that a majority of Germans would not be opposed to a more authoritarian rule. In contrast, a democratic government would say, "Let the troublemaker protest and express his opinion. Let's debate the practices of old. Let's make sure that people are involved in important decisions." Germans hate confusion and chaos. They hate it when people disobey rules or exempted from rules. They also hate standstills, endless debates, and a lack of progress. But that's exactly what democracy is currently offering them. Those who visit Germany are often impressed by its law-abiding citizens. One might notice the rarity of jaywalking, the cleanliness of its cities, adherence to speed limit, and other traffic regulations. Germans tend to follow rigid rules. In general, Germans love law and order. They love strict guidelines and swift law enforcement. They love strong leaders that tell them the way rather than ask for their opinion. But the idea that Germans are more conservative than other peoples is not exactly true. If the German does not enforce conservative values, liberalism flourishes. For example, liberal values like homosexuality grew in popularity in the lead up to World War II. It wasn't until Adolf Hitler put an end to it that the former conservative values resurfaced. History shows that Germans gravitate toward strong leadership. Many of Germans' older generation today praise Hitler for the law and order he brought despite all the evil he did. But the current democratic government is not offering the strong leadership that many Germans desire. The refugee crisis has challenged their idea of law and order. Former laws that were taken for granted are now being questioned. Law enforcement agents have found themselves overwhelmed with bureaucracy, unable to execute their duties. That's why the desire for strong leadership is growing in Germany. The study by the University of Leipzig found that almost every third German expressed xenophobic positions in 2018. There is a link between craving authoritarian rule and the rise of right-wing extremism. The study explained people with an authoritarian character tend to have rigid ideologies that allow them to submit to one authority, to participate in their power, and demand the devaluation of others in the name of that order, all at the same time. Around 40% of Germans display authoritarian characteristics, while only 30% are explicitly democratic. Authoritarian aggression is deeply rooted in 65% of Germans. The desire to exclude dissenters is shared by 2/3 of Germans, says Dr. Oliver Decker. This explains the connection between the refugee crisis and the increased dissatisfaction with democracy. Why do 75% of Germans suddenly believe that free speech is not handled properly by their government? Nothing really has changed in Germany's law on free speech. But what has happened is that those who expressed their criticism against the refugees felt suppressed. Authoritarian rule is not known for allowing free speech, but it does allow criticism against those not belonging to the state.
And now it's time for the trivial question of the day. The question is, who is the current Chancellor of Germany?
Option A, Adolf Hitler. Option B, Angela Merkel. And option C, Charlie Machner.
We'll find out the answer after a short break. Welcome back to Science Lab. The science are happening because Jesus is coming. Before the break, I asked you the trivial question of the day, and the question was, who is the current Chancellor of Germany?
The options given were option A, Adolf Hitler, option B, Angela Merkel, and option C, Charlie Machner.
The correct answer is option B, Angela Merkel. Angela Dorothea Merkel is a German politician serving as the Chancellor of Germany since 2005. She served as the leader of the center-right Christian Democratic Union, also known as the CDU, from 2000 to 2018. Merkel has been widely described as the de facto leader of the European Union, the most powerful woman in the world, and by many commentators as the leader of the free world.
Merkel was born in July 17, 1954 in Hamburg, West Germany, and moved to East Germany as an infant when her father, a Lutheran clergyman, received a pastorate in Perlberg. She obtained a doctorate in quantum chemistry in 1986 and worked as a research scientist until 1989. Merkel entered politics in the wake of revolutions of 1989 and briefly served as a deputy spokesperson for the first democratically elected East German government headed by Lothar de Maizière in 1990.
Following German reunification in 1990, Merkel was elected to the Bundestag for the state of Mecklenburg-Vorpommern and has been re-elected ever since. As the protege of Chancellor Helmut Kohl, Merkel was appointed as the Federal Minister for Women and Youth in Kohl's government in 1991 and became the Federal Minister for the Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety in 1994. After her party lost the federal election in 1998, Merkel was elected Secretary General of the CDU before becoming the party's first female leader 2 years later in the aftermath of a donation scandal that toppled Wolfgang Schäuble. Following the 2005 federal election, Merkel was appointed Germany's first female chancellor at the head of a grand coalition consisting of the CDU, its Bavarian sister party, the Christian Social Union, and the Social Democratic Party of Germany. In the 2019 federal election, the CDU obtained the largest share of the vote, and Merkel was able to form a coalition government with the Free Democratic Party. At the 2013 federal election, Merkel's CDU won a landslide victory with 41.5% of the vote and formed a second grand coalition with the SPD after the FDP lost all of its representation in the Bundestag. After the 2019 federal election, the CDU was again the largest party, and she was re-elected to a fourth term on 14th March 2018. In 2007, Merkel was a president of the European Council and played a central role in the negotiation of the Treaty of Lisbon and the Berlin Declaration. One of Merkel's consistent priorities has been to strengthen transatlantic economic relations. Merkel played a crucial role in managing the financial crisis at the European and the international level, and she has been referred to as the decider in domestic policy, healthcare reform, problems concerning future energy development, and more recently, her government's approach to the ongoing migrant crisis have been major issues during her chancellorship. On 26 March 2014, Merkel became the longest-serving incumbent head of government in the European Union, and she is currently the senior G7 leader. In October 2018, Merkel announced that she would not seek re-election as leader of the CDU at the party convention in December 2018 and as a chancellor in 2021.
In election after election on the state and federal levels, Germans have expressed their dissatisfaction with the government, but nothing has changed. No matter what they vote for, the problem remains. The fringe parties on the left and right have grown, but nothing has really changed in the government. Millions of Germans believe that their vote for change has been ignored, and Germany has experienced a similar situation in the recent past.
Germany's history with democracy is short, about 14 years prior to World War II and 70 years after. After the end of World War I in 1919, Germany's monarchy ended and a new republic started. But the German nation had lived for centuries under authoritarian regimes, at times even worshipping the king or emperor, so it hesitated to embrace democracy.
In Europe, many believed Germans would celebrate the Weimar Republic as liberation from oppressive rule, but Germans longed for a return to the monarchy. Their discontent led them to see more and more flaws in the newly founded democracy. After the financial crisis in the 1920s, Germany's political system was severely tested. Political parties could not gain enough votes, and forming a governing coalition became impossible. Ruled by transitional governments, German politics and government became a mess. The German people wanted change, but they couldn't agree on what kind. They were repeatedly asked for their opinion, but all they wanted was someone to show them the way. In the 14 years of their republic, 14 national elections were held. The rise of Hitler lifted the burden of the voting ballot from them. As he took charge of the government in 1933, he was giving orders rather than asking for opinions. Protests and opposition were put down, and the law and order was again established. Many Germans loved it, and they followed his lead into destruction. From 1933 onward, Germany transformed from a democracy into a dictatorship. Did Germans want a dictatorship that mass murdered any kind of opposition? No. They wanted a government that set sound policies and made sure they were enforced and brought progress. Many in Germany today who admire Hitler's accomplishments refer to this law and order and the progress it brought. Germans are again frustrated with democracy. Again, their vote of change hasn't brought the desired change. And again, they can't agree what that change should look like. Once more, they desire someone to tell them what to do rather than ask for their opinion. There is a strong demand for a new leader in Germany. Yes, the German people don't know what their leaders should do. They are divided. Some want strict laws against migration. Others want strict laws against those who attack migrants. Some want environment-friendly policies. Others want policies that boost the economy. But overall, they want someone they can trust to make those decisions for them.
A prophecy in the book of Daniel foretells that such a strong man will rise in Germany and be welcomed by the people. And in his state he shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries.
Current conditions in Europe, including the refugee crisis and the turmoil in German politics, provide probably one of the greatest opportunities ever for a new leader to come into power by flatteries. Chancellor Merkel is on her way out and is now a lame duck. Expect political and social crisis in Germany and Europe, and public resentment and anger to grow even deeper. Then watch for a strong man to take advantage and make his way to power through flatteries.
This strong leader will dictate Germany's ways and receive little opposition. As Revelation 13 shows, he will establish law and order. Those who don't follow that order will be punished. That's exactly what Germans want. The problem, however, is that this man will enforce whatever seems right in his own eyes. Even worse, he will be heavily influenced and likely even possessed by the devil. The mounting conflicts of this world and his desire for power will lead him to order Germans into war. The rising hatred in Germany against foreigners, the growing distrust in Western systems, and the fears of conflict are the perfect breeding ground for this strong man to flourish. Germany's desire for strong leadership will again end in horrifying conflict. The prophecy in Daniel also reveals where it will lead. And through his policy also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand.
The German strongman will enforce his policies and grow in might to the point that he will lead Germany and other European nations to war. But his reign will end suddenly as the Prince of Princes, Jesus Christ, will return to earth to put an end to mankind's evil rule.
And in the days of these kings shall the God of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever.
All these show that what is mentioned in the Bible that are going to take place in the end times are taking place in our lifetime. We're living in the last days, and the Lord Jesus Christ is coming again very soon. Thank you for joining us in this episode, and don't forget to tune in to the Science Lab next time.
Send us photos, videos, news, and YouTube links which are worth sharing, and also send us your feedbacks to the email address sciencelab@angeltv.org. If you have missed any of the episodes, do not worry, you can watch it again and again in our Science Lab YouTube page. But do not forget to like, share, and comment on the video.
Ask your friends or relatives to watch Science Lab so that they will also know that we're living in the last days. Remember, the signs are happening because Jesus is coming. Maranatha.